From disaster to done. The East Texas Restoration Report. From disaster to done.
You know that incredibly specific, almost universal feeling of just total helplessness when like a pipe bursts in your ceiling?
Oh, it's the worst. Total panic mode.
Right. Or like when floodwaters just start creeping under your front door and you're just standing there.
Yeah, your sanctuary is suddenly turning into a literal swamp.
Exactly.
The water is spreading, and the drywall is just soaking it up like a giant sponge.
Oh, yeah.
And all you can think about is, just wanting anyone to make it stop.
Yes, because you are operating in pure survival mode at that point.
100%.
So when that big, heavily branded truck finally pulls into your driveway.
Oh, the relief?
Right. A crew jumps out. They're wearing matching polos. They've got clipboards, heavy equipment.
Yep.
There is this immediate, profound sense of relief. Like, oh, thank God the cavalry has arrived.
You really do think the nightmare is over.
You do. But as we dive into the source material today, we are going to see that sometimes the arrival of that truck is, well, it's the exact moment the real nightmare begins.
Yeah, it turns out the initial event was really just the prologue.
Seriously. So today we are looking at a really highly focused set of notes and excerpts from a piece titled The High Cost of Failed Restoration.
Really fascinating stuff in here.
It is. And we're specifically focusing on a section called When Restoration Goes Wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission today for this deep dive is to expose the hidden failures in the restoration industry. We are going straight into the belly of the beast, basically, to uncover a pretty shocking reality.
Very shocking, honestly.
Yeah, which is that the aftermath of a disaster, the supposed fix, can sometimes be significantly worse than the initial event itself.
Yeah.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because it goes against everything we assume.
It really is a bitter pill to swallow. Because, we are so deeply conditioned to believe that any action taken by a professional is inherently corrective.
Right. They have the clipboard. They must know what they're doing.
Exactly. We look at a flooded living room and naturally assume, okay, we are standing at the absolute peak of the crisis.
Yeah.
It can't get worse than this.
But the text presents this primary insight that completely flips the script on that.
It does.
It states very plainly that bad restoration often causes more damage than the original loss.
Which is just, wow.
I know, it's a heavy statement. It forces us to entirely rethink what a disaster actually is.
Yeah, and it introduces this really critical concept of secondary damage.
Okay.
There's a quote from the source that really serves as the foundation for this whole discussion. It says, not all damage comes from the disaster.
Ah.
Right? It forces us to separate the timeline into two very distinct phases.
Okay, break it down for me.
So first, there is the unavoidable damage caused by, the act of nature or the mechanical failure, the pipe bursting.
Right, the thing you couldn't control.
Exactly. But then there is the entirely avoidable damage caused by incompetence or negligence during the actual cleanup.
I want to make sure we were visualizing this mechanism correctly, the secondary damage.
Sure.
Because it's not just that they failed to fix the problem. It's that the act of fixing it creates an entirely new category of destruction.
Yes, exactly that.
It's like going to the doctor to set a broken arm, right?
Okay.
And their supposed fix accidentally breaks 2 of your ribs in the process.
Oh, man.
Or it reminds me of trying to clean like a small dark stain out of a really delicate rug.
Oh, I've done this.
Right. If you don't know what you're doing and you just aggressively scrub it with harsh bleach, you don't just fail to remove the stain.
No, you ruin the rug.
Exactly. You physically dissolve the fibers. You turn a localized little blemish into a permanent gaping hole. The exact action you took to save the rug is what destroyed it.
That captures the dynamic perfectly. The action creates the irreversible damage.
Right.
But what's fascinating here is we also have to look at the psychology of why this happens so frequently in homes and why it goes unnoticed for so long.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, think about your mental state when you have just watched your living room fill with like 2 inches of murky water.
You are incredibly vulnerable.
You are. You're
Yeah.
probably in a state of shock, honestly.
Yeah, you just want the adults in the room to take over.
Precisely. You see the heavy machinery, you see the confident posture of the crew, and you just assume they know the science of what they're doing.
Of course you do.
And this assumption, this idea that any action is good action, it completely blinds the property owner.
Wow.
Because of that blind trust, Secondary damage is allowed to occur literally right under your nose.
Because you don't know any better.
Right. You assume the deafening fans and the tearing down of walls are just, the ugly steps of a necessary cure.
Which means you are sitting and thanking them while they're basically pouring bleach on your rug.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's get into the actual mechanics of this destruction.
Let's do it.
If we know that secondary damage happens while people are blindly trusting the process, what exactly are these rogue processes? Because the source outlines 3 core themes of physical failure. It lists poor drying, over-demolition, and missed steps. And woven through all of these is the key concept of improper equipment use.
Yes, that's a big one.
But I gotta say, I need to push back on one of these points right away.
Okay, go for it.
I'm looking at over-demolition, and it feels entirely counterintuitive to me.
How so?
Well, if my house is flooded, right? If a room is just ruined by water, isn't the goal to tear out everything that got wet?
You'd think so, yeah?
Like, how can doing too much demolition be considered a failure? Isn't thoroughness exactly what you want in a disaster?
It seems incredibly logical. Like, if it's wet, rip it out, right?
Right.
But that mindset is exactly what allows this massive industry failure to persist.
Really?
Yeah. To understand why over-demolition is a failure, we have to look at the science of what restoration actually is.
Okay.
Because it is not just demolition. It is an applied science.
Yeah.
And it all starts with the missed steps
Mhm.
and the improper equipment use that directly lead to poor drying.
Okay, walk me through the science there. How does skipping a step actually cause poor drying?
Let's break down how water interacts with a building.
All right.
When water hits materials, like wood framing or drywall, it doesn't just sit on the surface in a puddle.
Right, it soaks in.
Exactly. It gets absorbed deep into the cellular structure of the material itself. That is what we call bound moisture.
Down to moisture. Okay.
And you cannot simply wipe it away. To get bound moisture out of a solid material, you have to manipulate thermodynamics.
Wow. Okay. Thermodynamics.
Yep. You have to control temperature, humidity, and airflow to create a vapor pressure differential.
A vapor pressure differential.
Right, which physically pulls the moisture out of the wood and back into the air.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah.
It's like trying to dry a soaking wet, thick wool sweater.
Perfect example.
Right. If I just lay it on a table and blast it with a hairdryer on maximum heat, I am not actually drying the sweater.
No, you're really not.
I'm going to scorch the outside fibers, making them bone dry and brittle, while the deep interior of the wool remains completely damp.
Exactly.
And eventually the inside will mildew and rot because I didn't change the environment. I just applied chaotic, uncontrolled energy to the surface.
That is a phenomenal analogy. The hairdryer, in your scenario, is the exact equivalent of the industrial air movers.
Those massive fans they bring in?
Yes, those massive fans that restoration crews bring into a home. A major misstep occurs when a crew brings in, say, a dozen of these powerful fans and points them at the wet walls.
Okay.
But they fail to pair them with the correct number of commercial dehumidifiers.
Wait. So the fans are just pushing the moisture out of the wall and into the air of the room?
Yes. The fans facilitate evaporation. They turn the liquid water in the walls into water vapor in the air.
Right.
But if you don't have adequate dehumidifiers to capture that vapor and physically remove it from the environment in a liquid form, you have a massive problem.
Oh, wow.
You aren't extracting the moisture from the house. You are simply relocating it.
So they are essentially just weaponizing the moisture.
That is exactly what they are doing.
That's insane.
The crew has now taken a localized kitchen leak, let's say, vaporized the water, and literally blown it throughout the entire house.
Oh, my God.
And where does that warm, wet air go? It travels to the dry, cooler parts of your home.
Upstairs.
It migrates upstairs, it condenses on the cool ceiling drywall, or it gets absorbed by the pristine hardwood floors in the adjacent room.
So they've basically turned the entire house into a terrarium.
They have. That is the literal mechanism of secondary damage.
Unbelievable.
The improper equipment use, meaning fans without dehumidifiers, causes the ambient humidity to just skyrocket, which damages materials that were never even touched by the original floodwaters.
Okay, that completely changes my definition of poor drying.
Right.
It's not passive. It's not just, a failure to dry the wet thing. It is the active mechanical spreading of water damage to things that were perfectly fine.
Exactly. Which brings us directly back to your pushback on over-demolition.
Oh, right. Let's connect that.
Okay, so imagine this crew. Days go by. The loud fans are running 24/7.
Driving you crazy.
Totally. But because they messed up the science of vapor pressure, the moisture is deeply trapped in the framing.
Right. The wool sweater is rotting on the inside.
Yep. The humidity is out of control. Now, maybe mold is starting to form because the whole environment is compromised.
Ugh, great.
The crew looks around and realizes the structure isn't drying. They are losing control of the situation.
So instead of, I don't know, recalibrating their equipment or fixing the science,
Yep.
their knee-jerk reaction is to start swinging sledgehammers.
Exactly. They resort to over-demolition.
Wow.
They tear out entire walls, they rip up perfectly salvageable hardwood floors,
Yeah.
and they destroy underlying structural components.
Just ripping it all out.
And why? Because they failed to apply the science of drying correctly in the first place.
That is wild.
Over-demolition isn't thoroughness. It is a cover-up for poor drying.
A cover.
Yeah, it is the blunt force trauma applied when the surgical approach of proper restoration fails.
That is incredibly unsettling.
It really is.
So when I see a crew aggressively gutting a house, hauling out massive bags of drywall, I shouldn't just be standing there thinking, wow, they are really working hard to save my home.
No, absolutely
I
not.
should be asking, wait, did you guys just fail to dry this properly on day one, and now you are destroying my house to hide the evidence?
Exactly. And you have to ask yourself, who benefits from that destruction?
Well, not me.
Certainly not you, the property owner.
Right.
You are now left with a massive, unnecessary reconstruction bill.
Right.
You've lost original materials, maybe historical charm, the actual bones of your house.
Yeah.
But to the untrained eye, the restoration company looks incredibly busy and productive. The destruction masquerades as progress.
Destruction masquerades as progress. That is terrifying.
It's a huge issue.
Because the physical manifestation of secondary damage looks exactly like hard work.
Yep.
But, as brutal as the physical destruction is, the source material highlights another layer to this disaster that allows these crews to get away with it.
Yeah, we have to talk about that.
Let's shift from the physical failures to the administrative failures. Because the tearing out of walls is bad, but the notes make it really clear that the paperwork, or, well, the lack thereof, is what ultimately ruins you.
It is. So the final key concept highlighted in the notes is a lack of documentation.
Which sounds so boring.
It sounds incredibly dry compared to the drama of tearing down walls and industrial fans, right?
Right, totally.
But it is the silent killer in the restoration industry. The notes feature a second pivotal authority quote: "Process failures are expensive."
Okay, so what does this all mean?
Well,
Because it seems like a leap, right? Skipping some paperwork is annoying, sure. But how does it become an inherently expensive process failure for the listener?
let's put a scenario to this.
Okay, let's do it.
Say I have that burst pipe. The crew comes in, they mess up the vapor pressure, they cause secondary condensation on my pristine hallway floors, and then they over-demolish and tear those floors up.
Just like we talked about.
Right. When I go to my insurance company, I assume I can just point at the torn-up floor and say, hey, they ruined this, please pay to replace it.
That is the logical assumption. It's like trying to get a refund for a botched home renovation.
Exactly.
But realizing you never got a receipt, you never signed a contract, you didn't even take a before picture.
Oh, that's exactly it.
The lack of documentation doesn't cause the physical damage, but it makes it permanently your problem.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it ignores the reality of how insurance and liability actually operate.
Right.
Restoration isn't just a physical trade with hammers and fans. It is inherently a procedural trade.
Procedural.
Yes, it is deeply intertwined with highly specific industry standards.
Yeah.
And in that world, if it isn't meticulously documented, it simply did not happen.
Because the insurance adjuster operates strictly on data.
Strictly on data.
They don't care about my narrative of what happened or my feelings.
Not at all. When the insurance adjuster arrives to assess the claim, they are not there to blindly write a check.
Right.
They need to see the timeline of the loss.
Right.
They need to see a baseline moisture map from day one.
A moisture map.
Yeah, a diagram showing exactly where the water migrated naturally immediately following the burst pipe.
Before the crazy fans got turned on.
Exactly. And then they need to see psychrometric readings.
Psychrometric.
Yeah, data on the humidity, temperature, and moisture content of the materials. And they need that for day 2, day 3, and day 4.
But if the crew skip the step of taking those daily logs.
Then there is no map. There is no timeline.
Wow.
And without that scientific baseline, you cannot untangle the original loss from the secondary damage.
Because it's all just a jumbled mess of destruction.
Right. The restoration company will simply shrug and claim, oh, the hallway floor was ruined by the floodwaters.
And the insurance adjuster?
The insurance adjuster will look at the layout of the home, look at the origin of the pipe burst, and determine that the water from the kitchen should never have physically reached the hallway.
Ah. And because I have no daily moisture logs to prove that the restoration company's fans blew the moisture into the hallway,
You have no leverage.
I have nothing.
None at all. The insurance company will likely deny coverage for replacing the hallway floor, arguing it was unnecessary damage that wasn't caused by the covered peril, the burst pipe.
Man.
The lack of documentation didn't physically swing the hammer that ruined your floor, but it permanently makes the financial fallout your problem.
That is just brutal.
The process failure shifts the financial burden entirely onto the property owner. That is why process failures are so incredibly expensive.
It is a devastating double whammy.
It really is.
You get hit with the physical loss of your property due to their technical incompetence with the drying science.
Yep.
And then you get hit with the massive financial loss because their administrative incompetence prevents you from holding them accountable.
It is a perfect storm of failure.
Wow.
And, it all circles back to that initial psychological vulnerability we discussed at the very beginning.
Oh, right. The panic mode.
Yeah. When the water is rising in the living room, the absolute last thing on a homeowner's mind is asking the contractor to see their daily psychrometric moisture log.
Oh, I wouldn't even know the word.
Exactly. You just want the deafening fans turned on so you can feel like something is being done.
Yeah, you just want action.
The industry knows this. And unfortunately, poorly trained or less scrupulous operators use the inherent chaos of a disaster as a shield for their lack of process.
Which is exactly why we take these specialized industry notes and translate them.
Yes.
The goal here is to take this information and turn it into something that actually protects you, the listener.
Absolutely.
Let's synthesize the journey we've just been on, because it's a lot.
It is a lot.
We started with a standard disaster, a flood, a leak, a storm, and we expected the story to be about how terrible the water is.
Right.
But we quickly learned from the source that the supposed cure can actually be the real disease.
We learned that skipped steps, specifically failing to pair air movers with proper dehumidification, ignores the science of vapor pressure.
The weaponized moisture.
Right. And it physically spreads the water damage to dry areas of the home.
And then that failure to manage the drying process leads to a panic response from the crew, which is over-demolition.
Swinging the sledgehammers.
Gutting the house to hide the bad science, which creates massive secondary damage that literally eclipses the original event. Destruction masquerading as progress.
And finally, we saw how a lack of documentation, the failure to establish that moisture baseline and record the daily process, makes it basically impossible to prove who is at fault to an insurance adjuster.
Leaving you with the bill.
Exactly. Rendering those process failures financially devastating for you.
It is a sobering reality check.
Very sobering.
But for you, listening right now, why does this granular, nerdy detail matter?
Yeah, why should they care?
Because statistically, eventually, everyone deals with a leak, a storm, or some kind of property disaster.
It is a matter of when, not if.
Having this knowledge fundamentally changes your posture in that moment of crisis.
It does.
You don't have to be the vulnerable homeowner blindly trusting the uniform and the clipboard. Knowing that the restoration industry is prone to these specific cascading failures transforms you.
You step out of the role of a helpless victim, and you step right into the role of an educated, vigilant advocate for your own property.
Exactly. To ask if they are using enough dehumidifiers to capture the moisture their fans are kicking up.
To demand the daily logs.
Yes. To question why a wall is being torn down if the moisture readings don't actually justify it.
You basically become the most dangerous thing to a bad contractor.
An informed client who understands the underlying mechanics of their job.
Yes. It takes away the helplessness that defines a disaster.
It gives you your agency back, right when you need it most.
We are no longer flying blind.
You really aren't. But before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a lingering, slightly more philosophical question inspired by this source material.
Of these.
Because we've spent this entire time talking about drywall, thermodynamics, and insurance adjusters.
Very technical stuff.
But the core insight here, that bad restoration causes more damage than the disaster, feels like a concept that applies to so much more than just a flooded house.
Oh, it is a very deeply human dynamic. We see a crisis and we react.
Think about it. At what point does our desperate, panicked rush to just fix a problem inherently become the creation of an entirely new, worse problem.
Wow.
Whether it's, a pipe bursting in your ceiling, a sudden crisis in a personal relationship, or a massive unexpected mistake at work.
Right.
How often do our rushed, poorly documented, knee-jerk restoration efforts do more harm than good?
How often do we reach for the sledgehammer to tear down the walls when we really just needed to properly assess the environment and apply a little bit of science?
It's so true. Sometimes the absolute most damaging thing you can do is to blindly start swinging in the dark just to feel productive.
Yeah.
The next time you face a sudden crisis, before you let anyone, even yourself, rush in to aggressively tear down the walls to fix it.
Maybe the best first step is simply taking a breath.
Taking a breath, demanding the data, and just sitting with the initial damage.
Because as we've learned today, the cure should never be worse than the disease.
Stay curious, stay vigilant, and we'll catch you next time.
From looking to long view, we keep it clear and true. Now cockroaches too got something you can use. When the pipe lets go or smoke leaves its trace, we break it down fast so you know what to face. What's the first move? What should you do? With signs mean trouble, we'll walk you through the Sun East Texas Restoration Report. The Sun East Texas Restoration Report. Quick tips, real talk, keep your place in line. Year round and ready, one episode at a time. Water in the hall, mow behind the wall. Fire left a mess, we cover it all. Season by season, we call out the risk. Behind the scenes with the team and the steps that fix. Before the storm rolls in, before the damage starts, we point to the clues and the smart